Hi Sanjay, welcome to the podcast. Very happy to have you here. Um,
Thanks, man.
so
Thank you so much. I think we were planning this for quite some time, right?
yeah, and I think that's how these things always go.
I was just thinking, hey, yaar, it's what 10 years since we passed out of MBA, right? And
Yeah,
uske baad, more or less exactly 10 years, 2024.
yeah, exact 24 dude. मतलब, yeah, time flies, and then I thought about it. Almost school से निकल के भी 20 साल हो गए यार. मतलब those milestones
Yeah,
they keep hitting by.
seriously.
But yeah, I think FPL is one common thing which keeps people together even after so much time. And like, as obviously
Yeah.
even in our league we've got some old timers. So yeah, that's always a good thing.
No, for me, especially this Toons League, I don't know since how many years you've been part of that league, but for me, so I was part of one paid league before that.
Hmm.
But didn't know anybody. I just had one of my cousins, who's in fact now part of your league as well, Gaurav Jetwani, the
Oh yeah,
J211 ID.
yeah.
Yeah, so he has been a pro FPL manager since I think good 7 8 years. I was a very casual player, and he got me into one paid league, and then I found out about this paid league through you. And yeah, man, it's been I think what we are more than 50 people this year.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Yeah, and thanks for joining in and pulling in other great players along. And yeah, I guess it has evolved. So I think this is the fourth year that we are doing this, and I mean, things are shaping up. I think every year organically we're attracting new people, new players, and I think we even try to evolve. Like, you've been part of this for 3 years now. This is your third
Mm-hmm.
year, so you also know basically we keep innovating with the kind of prizes we
Yeah, yeah.
have and the formats. So yeah, and I thought this might also be a good forum, to talk about some of the unique stuff we do in our leagues, right? Like the last man standing league that we have, some of the
Yeah.
wild prize categories that we've done in the past. But yeah, Sanjay, all of that will happen in due time. I think today is all about you, and just wanted the wider community to know more about you. Interesting team name choice there. So if you can, just take us through a little
Yeah,
bit
so my
about
team
that.
names were actually quite boring, yaar. It used to be what Pune United, Pune Man United, something of
Bandra
that
United. I
sort, right?
remember Bandra FC.
Bandra United. So basically, wherever I'm staying, I just add that and United. And this year, what happened is, so the faster you register your team, you get a lower team ID,
Lower
right?
ID.
And so I was desperate to try and register it quickly and just trying to think what name. I said I'll just pick one Man United player and link my name to his name. And yeah, Gobi Manchurian man. My wife was talking about her Bangalore Gobi Manchurian days, and I just came up with it. Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing
So,
else. It was spur of the moment.
so for those guys who may not be from Pune, Mumbai, Maharashtra side as a whole, Kobe is basically the Marathi term for gobi, right? So I'm sure you guys are more familiar
Yeah.
with Gobi Manchurian. But yeah, I guess so. That's a little play on the team names you've done there. So Sanjay, how
Yeah.
about you did mention that you've been playing FPL casually for a long time. So how about a quick intro, little background about yourself, and keep it
Yeah.
moving.
So to be honest, in terms of actual supporting a club, I support United. It's been what so I was in my seventh or eighth grade that I started following football, and those were the days when Sir Alex and the team that he had built. So good times there. And in fact, a very interesting way how I started supporting United. So a couple of things happened there. I got my first home PC when I was in my seventh grade, and the PC came with a FIFA demo, just the demo version installed, and there were just two teams in it,
Arsenal.
Arsenal and United.
Yeah. I think we all started there. I chose
Yeah,
Arsenal that time. You chose United. So yeah.
yeah. So I chose United that time, and then I think it was somewhere around that famous Champions League knockout game happened, which though United lost, it was the game against Real Madrid where I think the original Ronaldo had scored a hat trick. And I
Yeah.
remember reading about it in the newspapers, and that was the first time something related to football was discussed in our school. So yeah, that's how I started supporting United. FPL, while I've been playing casually, I was just checking. In fact, the stats I started playing in 2011-12. That's the season I started playing. So I have played every season since then. So what? This is my 12th season of FPL.
Wow.
But to be honest, seriously, it was just a couple of years back. Before that, it was just random making transfers. I would miss transfers and more of gut feeling, right? I mean, you know, the 4 5 teams, you just pick players from them, and the others were just fillers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And in fact, more or less, most seasons post December, I would either stop playing or miss 5 6 weeks. Yeah, but the paid leagues have really helped. Last year was, in fact, my best season. So my rank was around 22,000, if I'm
Wow.
not mistaken.
Yeah.
Had a really, what I would say, sort of a bad ending because I didn't have Guardiol for
Oh,
the run in, right? So since December, or I think since early Jan till the last 4 game weeks, I was in the top 10K.
yeah.
And my highest rank was, I think, around whatever 2,300. And I was like, man, what's happening, man? A couple of Matka moves, Ollie Watkins captain when he had that hat trick. But yeah, man, still a pretty decent year, and quite looking forward to this year as well.
That's
Though
brilliant,
not a
man.
great start, man, so far, but yeah,
It just no, we're just about halfway through game week one. So
halfway
yeah,
through the
it's
game
okay.
week one, yeah, yeah.
And we know how much things can change even in the last few weeks, right? So yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, Sanjay. So you did mention your highest overall rank. I think was closer to 2,300, which I think is phenomenal because around the time most of us started playing FPL, we used to have, I guess, 3 million, 4 million overall players, right? So and within that, top 10K used to be considered as the elite, like the top
Yeah,
of the top. So to knock something like 2,000 odd last year when we had as many as 10 million players, I think
yeah, last
that's
year, yeah.
phenomenal.
Last year was my rank, and that was during the season. So it was not the rank that I finished at,
Yeah, yeah,
but
of
yeah,
course, of course. Yeah,
that's the close to the highest rank that I've
yeah,
been.
absolutely, man. That's great. That's great. So, Sanjay, walk us through your philosophy, right? I mean, how do you really approach the game of FPL? Uh, what are some of your big do's and don'ts, right? I mean, from your personal experience.
Yeah, yeah. So I was just thinking, man, especially last 1 week where trying to make this team from scratch, right? One of the things I really try and do is not take hits. I'm absolutely against taking hits. I know sometimes it's landed me in a soup because in trying to avoid a hit, I tend to take a player who ideally I should have in the next game week, maybe 2 or 3 game weeks down the line. But yeah, that's generally my philosophy. Try and play it slightly safe, try and look at slightly more long term picks. And what that necessarily then makes me do is try and also focus on the typical top six, top eight teams because those are the ones which are more predictable. uh, what has also happened is over the last 2 3 years, you have a lot of content creators
Oh yeah,
online, right? So, I mean, actually, there are positives and negatives about it. So, while it really helps you understand fixtures, how you should plan your team, especially some of the lower ranked teams, you might not really know their players that well. But what I've also realized over the past few months is sometimes when I hear something, and obviously it's logical because they have the fixtures, they have the data around it, it does influence my decision a bit too much. And that's something that I'm trying to change this year. I mean, last year there were a couple of decisions where I felt like this is the player I want. But a lot of so I don't follow a lot. There are a couple of podcasts that I try and follow, but if they have a certain view, I used to find it very difficult to convince myself that no, I mean just go with my gut instinct. So that is something I'm trying to change. But yeah, otherwise it's a fairly safe approach. Try and avoid hits. Try and look at least the next 5 to 7 games.
yeah.
And one thing which I didn't do before last year was never really cared about when to use your wildcard.
Wow. Yeah.
And that I realized that some advanced planning about when to use your chips, I think that goes a long way in trying to choose your team. So if you know 3 weeks, 4 weeks down the line, you're going to use a chip, you sort of dead end your team to that game week,
Yeah.
right? That you just look at the next 3 or 4 fixtures and choose players accordingly.
So Sanjay, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I think this year with as many as five free transfers that you're
Yeah,
able to bank, and the best part is they will hold even if you play a free hit or a wild card, which used to never
wild
happen
card.
before, right? So
Yeah,
basically, how does that change how you would want to approach really dead ending, right? What you mentioned about dead ending. So for those of us who might be new to this term, really, dead ending is when you don't look at too many long term fixtures. Like say you've
mm,
decided to play a wild card in game week 28. So game week 24 onwards, you're only going to pick players. You're only going to make transfers for players who help you in the immediate short term, right? Till game week
correct.
28. So essentially, at the end of game week 28, you have a team which might have been brilliant up till then, but 29 onwards, you probably have blank, or you have real terrible fixtures. Maybe you're playing Liverpool away, or you're playing Man City away. So that is what dead ending is all about, and the philosophy really there is to play a wild card, or just shake up everything so that you're out of it. And I think
Correct.
having those five extra transfers might really make things interesting, especially in cases where you have blank game weeks followed by double game weeks, right? And I think a lot of us struggled with
Correct.
that last year, because you're going to
Yeah.
load up on players for a game week where they have fixtures, and the next week they blank. And I remember, I think it was Spurs. They had a double game week followed by a blank, followed by another double game week, right? So
Yes. Yes.
it's
Yes.
very hard to keep players like Son, maybe a Pedro Porro on your bench for a game week, and then you can't sell them because you need them back. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. But yeah, let's watch out for the five bankable free transfers this year.
Yeah.
Also,
So I think if planned well, the five free transfers. I mean, if you can accumulate even say four,
yeah,
it's as good as a mini wildcard, right? You
absolutely,
use your wildcard, then maybe wildcard you set up your team for the next 4 5 weeks,
yeah.
accumulate those 4 5, and then when the fixtures turn, you just
Yeah.
use your four to move the team.
That's interesting you say that, because a lot of times, when you play your wild card, it's actually just to change four or five players, right? And
Yeah,
a lot of us have that bias that now that I've used the wild card, I better make at least 10 or 12 transfers, which
10, 12. Yeah,
may not always be optimal for you. Like I think
correct.
Dharamveer last year he used his wild card to get rid of Watkins, and that is the same game week that Watkins ended up scoring a hat trick, right? So,
Oh man.
so yeah, these things do happen. But yeah, great to learn from you, Sanjay, on how you approach FPL. So what I've done here is I've pulled out your current team. This is of course game week one. We're still in the middle of it. Not all fixtures are over. The Arsenal Wolves game just
Mm.
got over. So yeah,
They
Sanjay,
just
this is
got
your
away.
team. You want to walk us through some of your key picks over here, and what really you thought about when you selected these guys.
Yeah, so to be honest, the biggest dilemma for me was Salah or no Salah, right?
Yeah,
In hindsight, it does look like with Salah would have been better, but unfortunately, picking Salah and Haaland together meant that we're really compromising on the team. So that was the big decision, and once I was sure that Haaland is something that I want to go ahead with, and the biggest reason for that was sort of predictability, right?
yeah,
Same manager, same team. He's got a good preseason in, so should get his regular returns in. So the idea was pick Haaland and then try and build a team around it. I was pretty big on Newcastle because of a couple of reasons. One, uh, again, Isak, Wilson is injured, so primary striker there, no rotation risk. The fixtures seem to be on their side, and of course, this year, no Champions League, right? That was the big
yeah,
issue with Newcastle last year.
exactly.
So while Gordon, there was a slight risk. I mean, there's still a risk, right, that he might move to Liverpool. But otherwise, I think Gordon and Isak are two players who will probably be in the Newcastle 11 all year. And then the other big decision for me was whether Trent or no Trent.
Yeah,
Uh, Again, now that I look at I saw the entire game and seems like a bad move already. But again, the reason for Trent, no Trent was, and the reason I went with no Trent was I just felt 7 million in one guy in a team which has a new manager just didn't feel right to me. Even though the fixtures are pretty great, I agree. The fixtures for Liverpool are fantastic, but I thought if Trent does look really good, I'll probably move towards Trent in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So that is one transfer I'm ready to do even before a wild card, maybe
Ah,
6-7 weeks down the line.
okay.
But yeah, otherwise the team more or less picked itself in terms of Gordon. If I'm not going for if I'm not going for Salah, I wanted at least one Liverpool attacker, and Jota seemed the right guy
Yeah,
because pre-season he was playing as a striker.
yeah,
Saka, I feel, will probably be the guy with. We were just discussing on the group, right, with the most
yeah,
FPL points this season. Uh, 22. I mean, for 3 years he's been their main guy, and he's probably just entering his prime years. So yeah, and Solanke obviously was a last minute move where Spurs got him spending 60 million on a guy. I thought even though Richarlison is fit, I
yeah,
expect Solanke to be the starting striker for most games there. And the idea there was if for a team like Bournemouth he can score 19 goals a season.
yeah,
For a team managed by Ange with whatever Son, Richarlison, Madison behind him, 20 plus goals should happen. So yeah, some of the so in fact the fact that I mentioned a couple of podcasts that I listened to. So uh, all the bench that you see and the non sort of big team players that I have, I pretty much rely on content creators to get some views around it. So because I would probably not know whether, let's say in a pre-season, of course, once the season starts, then you have a much better idea about some of these teams. But
exactly.
let's say pre-season, what's happening with the Brighton, what's happening with the Fulham Wolves. That's where I relied on some of the content creators. Didn't go that well because the Brighton guy didn't start.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's about how I made one more last minute move that I did. Ending it was I think the last transfer I did before the deadline was. So I had Guardiola in my defense instead of Gabriel. And then the only reason of moving towards Gabriel was the clean sheet potential.
and paid off
Guardiola probably
immediately,
has
didn't it?
paid
It
off
paid off
immediately, right?
immediately. Yeah,
And Gabriel, of course, gives you the threat from the set pieces. But yeah, so that was the last move that I did.
right. Great, Sanjay. I think that sounds good. One insight I'd like to share, or rather, it's a suspicion that I have that now that
Mm,
Solanke, you mentioned, he did so well with Bournemouth. But don't you think that's also partly because he was obviously on pens? He was the focal point of their attack. Whereas in
correct.
Spurs, he's obviously not going to be on pens. And at the same time, don't you think the minutes risk is always going to be there with Richarlison, being pretty much a good quality striker that they already have. So, what's your take on that? Do you think it'll balance out fewer minutes but
Uh,
more chances?
so I agree on the second part where some minutes risk. Yes, the penalty part. So even I thought about it, but the whatever 19 goals that he scored for Bournemouth,
Yeah,
there's just one penalty goal in it. So there were 18 open field goals that he scored for Bournemouth. And here, from whatever I read about Spurs and the way they like to set up, I think they wanted somebody like Solanke who basically is a high presser forward, right?
yeah,
So that was something Ange was very specific about that. He's the kind of guy I wanted. Richarlison, if you remember when he was playing for Everton, he can play at other positions as well. So even if when he's fully fit, and let's say when Solanke is fully fit, there are chances that both of them could be in the lineup together. Of course, they have Madison, they have Kulusevski, they have Son and Brennan Johnson. But I still feel at least 90% of the games, if Solanke is fit, he should start. And of course, 3 games down the line, if I do feel that he's averaging whatever 60, 65 minutes per game, I might have to move him on. A couple of options. In fact, I was considering Kai Havertz, who scored
yeah.
now. But I think I'm not sure if I have that 0.5 million in the bank. But yeah, Kai Havertz was one guy I was quite bullish on as well. Plus, I think there was the guy who started yesterday, right? The Fulham attacker, Muniz.
Muniz, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So couple of others that I was considering, but yeah, once the transfer happened, I thought let me at least go with him for the first few weeks and let's see how it goes.
Sure, and I think they have brilliant fixtures off the bat, right? I guess they have
Yes,
Leicester and
yes.
then Everton. So I think Although Everton slightly defensive, good team, but you never
Correct.
know. I mean, it's Spurs, and they're not going to start off the season slow. We remember how they blew everyone out of the window
Correct.
last year, right, when they started off. So yeah. So Sanjay, if I hear you correctly, you did mention earlier Trent Alexander-Arnold is probably one guy you're looking at, and then of course you just mentioned the couple of strikers that you want to go for right now. I think
Yeah.
apart from that, it looks good. Are you thinking of wild card? Do you have game week in mind, or you're just going to go with the flow, or I think there's an
So
international break right
as
after
of
game week 3. So
Game Week 3 is international. The
yeah,
way I was looking at it was probably 5 or 6 weeks down the line, if I could wildcard, because for most of my picks, I had looked at the first 5 fixtures. So,
right.
whom do they play for the first 5? And accordingly choose. Of course, some of the guys from the top teams, irrespective of whom they play, we pick them.
Yeah.
But for some of the others, the first 5 was what I had looked at. So, somewhere around 5 and 6.
Okay.
Of course, depends on what happens in the transfer window because that's still open.
Absolutely.
I don't have anybody from, say, for example, the likes of Chelsea and United. But
Yeah.
if they do start really well, you might probably want to get hold of, let's say, an Nkuku or I don't know, maybe Bruno. So if Bruno continues to play up front like he did yesterday, with Rasmus out for a month and a half, he's a really good pick. I think he was unlucky yesterday to not at least score
Yeah.
one, right?
That's a very big understatement, and I think even the Garnacho miss towards the end. Yeah.
Ganacho miss, yes. Ganacho
Pretty
miss was, I
painful for you
think,
guys.
probably the what we term as the highest XG miss, right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Speaking of
so yeah, those
high,
couple of transfers.
so Sanjay, speaking of high XG misses, if you see right now who some of the most transferred out players are, uh, can you venture a guess who I'm talking about?
Most transferred out player.
And high expected goal missed, right? So yeah, there's an overlap there.
I mean, I'm probably Ganacho because he missed that goal and he was not starting. I mean, that would be my guess. But I don't think he was selected by that many managers. So I'm just trying to think somebody who's fairly well selected but missed. Is it maybe Ganacho or Bruno? I don't know.
So you're right about Ganacho. He is in the top 5 or 6 when I last checked. But anyway, I
Hmm.
mean, I was going for the standard XG monster, right? Who keeps missing? So it is Nunez. You'd be surprised to know
Oh,
that.
Nunez. So Nunez is the XG monster. Oh, right. Because he didn't start and Jota
Yeah,
started.
yeah. But
But
yeah,
I'm surprised so many actually went for him also. Yeah.
yeah. I guess people didn't learn last year. It's okay. I mean, it's good for some of the other managers, right? Like you and me, who don't
Yeah,
have
good for
Nunez.
us, man.
All right. So I think that's it from my side, Sanjay. I think was great. Kicking this off with
Same
you,
here,
and
man. Same here.
we look forward to talking to other people, and yeah, I look forward to co-hosting along with you for the next few guys that we catch up with. Yeah.
Same here, man. Just one point anecdotally, wanted to check with you. Toons, is it based on uh, the bar in camp area, the basement bar in camp,
Yes. Yes,
Pune?
absolutely. So yeah, I completely forgot. Right, you're very well versed with Pune, so it's not going to be
Pune,
a surprise
yeah.
to you. So unfortunately, they had closed it down some time back, but I still am in touch with the owner, so they
Oh, is
were
it?
coming up at a different place. But yeah, definitely, this is named after Toons, where most of us used to almost 15 years ago, right? We used to go to Toons to watch the important matches. So yeah, that's a little bit of
Nice.
backstory about why we call it Toons. But yeah,
Good, man. Good. Nice catching up and looking forward to many such more conversations.
likewise, buddy.